You know the old adage, if you don't learn from history, you'll wind up making the same mistake as those who were used by people not as powerful, but who were able to manipulate. There was something that was called the Arab Spring, if you remember that, where millions of young people got up and said it's enough for these dictators. And they insisted that this was a democratic uprising of young people wanting to control their own lives and get control of their government, a government that was tyrannical. They did this in Libya, they did this in Egypt, in Tunisia. And the question is, what happened? Libya became a hellhole because the powers of liberation didn't have the guns, didn't have the authority, didn't have enough power afterwards to deal with the violent factions that used their protests to get rid of the government. The government, although they were more powerful than those factions, lost the respect of the Obama administration and was told to stand down. In the process, gangs of all kinds took over. Libya is a hellhole. What happened in Egypt? In Egypt, they got rid of Hosni Mubarak, who might have been an enlightened despot, a despot nonetheless. He had arrested religious leaders, and he held an iron hand over the economy. He wanted his sons, his children, to take over after him, more like a king than like a president. So he was gotten rid of. A lot of pressure from the Obama administration. What happened? What ensued? What ensued was a democratically elected despot, a member of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood, who was going to lead Egypt back to war with Israel and Egypt back into the Middle Ages with jihad and Sharia as their calling. But the people who engaged in the protests were not members of the Muslim Brotherhood, but they were used by the members of the Muslim Brotherhood for purposes other than what they wanted. The same is true with what's going on in front of our eyes. There are millions of people who feel that they've been wronged and that there is a systematic racism that governs the country. Is it true or not is irrelevant. That's their perspective. And perspectives have a reality of their own. Never mind that Asians came to this country in the latter half of the 20th century and established themselves as the number one socioeconomic group. They earned the most per capita in the country. They were also the best students. And for that reason, there is an anti-Asian backlash in the elite universities so that they don't get quote unquote overrun by Asians. This is discrimination working the other way. But these people came here with different skins, with different eyes, slanty eyes, yellow skin, strange language, maybe strange customs, and they all established themselves in a short time. So you have to ask yourself, is there an endemic racism in the country? And the answer you'll have to say is no. That doesn't mean that racism doesn't exist. It exists. But to say that it is a system, that the system somehow or other is set up for certain people to fail, is absurd. People fail because either they don't try hard enough, don't plan well enough, or engage in practices that don't allow them to succeed. If I have failed in anything, it is because I did all of those things. I'm not blaming an individual, but there is no systematic racism in the laws of the country. That went out in the 60s. It's been almost 60 years since then. A Republican president sent American troops into Alabama and into other southern states to ensure that Medgar Evers went to school, that the laws of the country would be fulfilled the way they're supposed to. To say that there's a systemic racism in the police departments is also ludicrous, because the police are no longer almost entirely white. There are many, many African Americans, many Asian Americans, many Hispanic Americans who comprise the police department. The police department has have changed over the years, and they're getting better. Does that mean that there's no room for improvement? No. But it's not systematic. But people have that perspective and are entitled to air their grievances. However, they are being used. They're being used by groups who have another agenda. The burning and the looting is seen by these people as justified. What is their justification? They want to get rid of white privilege. What does white privilege mean? Well, the chief or the head of the Minneapolis City Council said that if you call 911 when somebody is invading your home, that's a form of white privilege. In other words, to protect yourself against robbery or rape or murder is white privilege. How could that be white privilege? It's basic human rights. We're entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have no right to my life or the pursuit of my happiness. If I don't interfere with you, you've got no right to interfere with me. So what is the privilege here? It's obvious the privilege means having things that other people don't have, which includes most of the black community as well. Because relatively speaking, people who are middle class are fairly well off. They're better off than 99% of the peoples in the world. They own homes, drive nice cars, have nice lawns. I live in Farmington Hills. In Farmington Hills, which was once lily white, that's a lot of African Americans. My neighborhood, maybe 30%. Far more than the 13% of the country. Can you tell who is African American by the looks of their homes? No. They keep their homes nice. So anyone who wants a nice house or nice furnishings will attack and may attack an African American. Is that white privilege? Of course not. What is the agenda? The agenda is socialism, but not ordinary socialism, violent communist socialism, like you see this Chaz or the Chaz taking over this place in Seattle, where people are basically hostages in their own homes and businesses. This is the agenda. And those who legitimately feel that they want to make a difference in the way things are run are being used by these radicals. And many of them are white. It has nothing to do with black or white. They're socialists. And they believe that never let an opportunity be lost. An opportunity to riot and to destroy the basis of good government and good conduct. When you see things happening over and over again, you think this is normal. It's not normal. Try building a business. Try investing and earning some money on your own. Let's say you want to start a landscaping company and you develop a list of customers and they become satisfied and you make a living from it and you get married and you have kids and you send them off to college. And then one bright day somebody is angry and they torch your trucks with your equipment. And you've got nothing to show. You don't have enough. The insurance won't help you for the season. You won't be able to buy stuff on the credit that you have. What are you going to do? You'll go bankrupt. 20, 30 years of business burnt up in one night. That's what these people are doing to thousands of people all over the country. So make no mistake about it. The people who are protesting, legitimately protesting, are pawns. They're the pawns of people who want to change the country into a way most of the people in this country don't want. Young people in colleges are not upset by this because they have been brainwashed by professors and by high school teachers and by books, the textbooks of this country reflect only one perspective, that of the radical left. There is no place for discussion. There isn't any other opinion. I got into a conversation with a person that used to pray in my synagogue, and I was belittled for the fact that I had a different opinion. Where do you get your opinion from? From Fox News? I get my opinion based upon the facts that I see. Just because you say a lie 1,000 times does not make it a reality. Police brutality is not a true assessment of what's going on. But even if you're protesting police brutality, which is legitimate, realize that there's another agenda. The same as what happened with the Arab Spring. And the results will be unsatisfying to the people who legitimately are protesting, who want change, but don't want America destroyed. The people who are using you want America destroyed. They want it changed fundamentally. What does that mean, to change fundamentally? That means there should be no private property, that the government should own everything, that everything should be distributed equally to everybody. Why? Because they want it. You know, they tried it already in many other countries in the world. Guess what they found? It never works. This is the best country in the world that the world has ever had. Does it mean that there are no problems? There are problems. But this is the best country that God has given in this world to date in history. And all of those who thought that they could make a better country by making things fair wound up doing what Animal Farm did. The animals rebelled against the farmer, and then the pigs took over worse than the farmer. And that's what happens when you become the pawns of people with vile agendas. Antifa and Black Lives Matter have different agendas than those people who are marching, even though they say, no, 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 you don't know what they really say. The Jewish people who would be marching with them don't know how anti-Semitic, anti-Israel they are. But it isn't just that. They want to change America into a way that America never intended. And that's the shame, because the pawns mean well, but the people using them don't.